Let's be honest, no one ever sets out to fail. But when a big strategy goes completely sideways, our first instinct is just to bury the evidence and move on, right? But what if we did the opposite? What if we treated that failure like a crime scene, a puzzle just packed with clues that could lead us straight to our next big win? So yeah, go ahead and grab your detective's magnifying glass. The investigation is officially on. You know the feeling, I'm sure. The plan looked solid. The team was fired up. The energy was just electric. And the results? A total, flat-out miss. It is one of the most maddening experiences in business. So we're going to put on our detective hats and use a really structured framework to dust for prints and figure out exactly what happened, and more importantly, why. Okay, so the strategy failed. The first thing we all want to do is find someone to blame. But here's the thing, blame is a complete dead end. It gets you nowhere. The real goal here is to do a proper post-mortem, a structured analysis that turns that painful flop into an incredibly valuable pile of data. This is about forensics, not finger-pointing. All right, so before we can figure out why something went off the rails, we have to know what the rails were supposed to look like in the first place. So our first step as detectives is to profile our victim, the original strategy exactly as it was dreamed up in its purest, most optimistic form. So let's get the facts of the case straight. Every good investigation starts with the basics. What was the strategy actually called? Which part of the company owned it? What was the one big, shining outcome it was supposed to deliver? And, this one's crucial, who were the decision makers who actually gave it the green light? This gives us our baseline. Now we get to the really juicy part, the why. Big strategies like this don't just appear out of thin air. They're built on a rationale, a core belief that if we do X, then Y will happen. So what was the expected benefit? A boatload of new revenue? A bigger slice of the market? And what data, what insights made everyone so confident it would work? This is where we start to unearth the core assumptions. And here it is, the blueprint. I mean, look at it. It's so clean, so logical. Phase 1 flows beautifully into Phase 2, and then right into Phase 3. Every task is defined, every timeline is neatly set. This is the plan in its perfect, optimistic, on-paper world, long before it ever had to face reality. Burn this image into your brain because the contrast is coming. Right, but as any good investigator knows, the plan is one thing. What actually happens, well, that's a whole other story. This is where our investigation really starts to heat up. We need to trace the actual chain of events that happened when this pristine plan slammed into the messy, unpredictable real world. And boom, this lays the disconnect bare. Over on the left, that ideal plan we just saw. On the right, the messy reality. This is where we list all the detours, the shortcuts, the uh-oh moments that forced a pivot. Did we skip a whole step? Did we have to react to some crisis? I guarantee you the most important clues are hiding right in the gap between these two columns. And now let's look at the hard evidence, the numbers. We were aiming for this high bar on revenue, but we only got to here. We set a big target for new customers, and reality fell way short. Now, this isn't about making people feel bad, it's about quantifying the gap. Just how big was the miss? The size of this gap tells us the magnitude of the problem we're dealing with. You know, failures almost never happen in a single big explosion. They send out little signals first, early warning signs that things are going off track. Did the team hit unexpected roadblocks inside the company? Did a competitor make a surprise move that threw us off? Did our first customers give us some negative feedback that maybe we didn't listen to? Finding these little red flags is key to figuring out if this whole thing could have been stopped earlier. Okay, so let's recap. We've collected the evidence, we know the plan, we know what actually happened, and we've seen the results. Now we get to the absolute core of our investigation, the root cause analysis. We are officially moving from what happened to why it happened. All right, let's bring in the usual suspects. We can sort all the potential causes into 4 main categories. Was it an internal problem, like we didn't have enough resources or communication was terrible? Was it external, something outside our control, like the market suddenly shifting? Was the problem strategic, meaning the core idea was just flawed from day one? Or was it operational, a perfectly good idea that we just fumbled in the execution? Categorizing like this really helps us focus our investigation. And now we bring in the witness testimony. These are the things people on the ground actually saw happen. Maybe the teams weren't on the same page. Maybe we were wildly optimistic about the budget or the timeline. Or maybe our fundamental belief about what the customer wanted was just wrong. Each one of these observations is a vital clue. This right here is the most important pivot in this entire process. We've analyzed what went wrong. Now we're going to reframe the whole thing. We're going to stop calling it a failure and start calling it what it actually is. An expensive, yes, but an incredibly valuable learning experience. Because even in a total disaster, some things usually go right. So, what worked? Maybe we built an amazing piece of tech or discovered a better process. Then, what did we completely get wrong? This chart shows what we underestimated, maybe the complexity, maybe the cost, and most importantly, which of our big foundational assumptions turned out to be totally invalid. This is pure gold. So, this is the crucial point. Think of your failed strategy not as a loss, but as an investment. You paid a high price to run a real-world experiment, and in return, you got undeniable data about your own assumptions, about what the market is really ready for, and about your team's true capabilities. No market research report in the world can give you that. Okay, we've done the forensic work, we've gathered the data. The final act is to make sure this doesn't happen again. It's time to turn these hard-won insights into a concrete plan that leads to future success. And this is exactly how we do it. For each category where we found a weakness, we define the specific lesson we learned, and then, this is the most important part, we come up with a concrete future action. So if our planning was flawed, the action is to build in more checkpoints. If our market understanding was way off, the action is to talk to 50 customers before we write a single line of code. Lesson learned, future action. Simple as that. Now, think about your own work for a second. You can use this exact same investigative process for everything, not just the giant failures, but for the small ones too. You can even use it for your successes. Why did that project go so well? Was it just luck? Or did you stumble on a brilliant process you can use again? This framework is a universal tool for getting smarter, faster. And that leaves us with the ultimate question you should be asking after any major effort. It's not who's to blame, it's what did we learn? What did this whole thing reveal about our most basic beliefs, about our team's true strengths, and about how we make big decisions? Answering that question, well, that's how you turn today's failure into tomorrow's victory.